Hey, what's up, everybody? Hope everybody's doing good today. Thanks for tuning back into the channel. I got another video for you today, and I'm going to break away from the river series on this one. This is just a video. I was I was on the river the other day, and this is a video I thought, you know what, you ought to do a little video on this. It's something that's important, often, I think, a lot of times overlooked. I know for years I overlooked it in the course of my decisions when I was fishing, but it's something I think is worth sharing, and some information I think maybe make you think a little bit differently before you leave an area or change bait color or something along that those lines. Um, First, thanks to everyone who has the new subscribers to the channel. Trying really hard to get to 1,000. That's, 500 was a plateau, actually 100 and then 500, and now I'm trying to get up to 1,000. And, I'm not going to stop when I get to 1,000. I'm going to keep going. I mean, the channel is something that's going to be ongoing. Uh, so that's just the next plateau that I'm trying to reach. So if you got buddies that like to fish, friends that like to fish, members of your club that like to fish, and I'd appreciate it. You tell them about the channel. If you think it'll be something be helpful to them, share the videos, like the videos, comment, and again, if you're often checking out the videos and you haven't subscribed, I would ask that you would consider subscribing. It's hot, man. It's really hot. Just gonna get hotter. Before I get started on today's video, I want to touch on something that's going to be very important. I got a tournament coming up Saturday, and this is going to be, we're on the heat advisory all week long. I was just in the river Sunday, and there were places where the water temperature was right at 90 degrees. I did find cooler water in different places. Actually, obviously, current has something to do with it. Shade had something to do with it. But please, please take care of your fish. I have always hated when I've had fish die on me. Dead fish penalties. I've had all different kinds of boats. When I fished in John Boat Clubs, we used to take coolers and rig them up as our live wells. We've done all different kinds of things. And as long as you keep oxygen pumping in your water, do all you can to keep the fish cool, you can keep your fish alive. And it's a tough in heat like this, I ain't gonna lie. This boat, I've had this boat now 7 years. Yeah, I bought it new in 2018. One of the biggest things that attracted me to this boat was the fact that the live well in this Triton, which is, it's only 18-foot 6-inch boat. It's the smallest Triton that they make. I think it still is. It's got the exact same live well system in it as the 21-footer does. It's 36 gallons of water. It's got pumps for pumping in, pumps for pumping out, pumps for recirculation. It's got probably the best live well system of any boat I've ever had. I've had a couple of Rangers. Years ago, I had a Hydrosport. I had different things. Even when I just had John boats with the cooler zone, nowadays people, they really trick their John boats out a lot better than what they did, when I had one. I just stuck a cooler in it and ran wires to the battery, and I'd plug it and unplug it. And often once you put a fish in, it stayed on all day and never cut off. And I'd add ice to it. One thing I've always done, and I didn't come up with this, I saw this, somebody was doing it, is I'll put a couple of these in each side of my live well, frozen water bottles. So I have 4 of them in the live well in the morning when I leave. I got another little cooler where I can keep about 6 more of these in. And actually I keep another 2 or 3 of them in my actual cooler that I keep my drinks and stuff in. So that's like 8, 9, 10 bottles. Yes, a little bit extra weight, you know. I change these out during the course of the day because this lasts a lot longer than dumping a bag of ice in. If you dump a bag of ice in, a lot of times the ice doesn't last very long at all. These last longer. I'll tell you something I saw a guy on the Potomac River do when I was fishing as a co-angler in a BFL. He would take these and refill them half with water and half with G-juice and freeze them. And when he put the bottles in, it would slowly release the G-juice into his live well, along with also adding ice and keeping the water cool. So use your ice however you choose to use it. This is just something that's been, worked for me. It doesn't harm the fish. These bottles don't harm the fish. It's no different than having the pool noodles or anything like that in there. And I don't leave a ton of them in there. Once they melt and I add a couple to it, I will take the other ones out, put them back in that other cooler. That way it's not taking up a bunch of space in my live well. So, and use your G-juice or whatever additive you like to use. I used to use the that white bottle. It was like Please Release Me. It was like flakes or powder or something. I used to use that. I just started using the G-juice because it got good reviews, and to me it was a little bit less of a mess than the powder. That powder, once that stuff ever got water touched it, it was a crazy, and this is supposed to be just doesn't stain the sides of your live well and stuff like the way the flakes and the powder used to. So that's something you can do to keep your fish alive. Next is your skincare, and this is just, I haven't even gotten to the video. This is just things to keep in mind. The sun, the heat, guys. If you use suntan lotion, just apply it. I have always just kept covered up. I've never been one. I'm weird about the scent and everything. I've never been one to use suntan lotion, but I always stay covered up with either the sun shirts with the hood, or I use the neck gaiters, they're called, and I pull these up over my ears because I got big ears. And this hat, this is a hat that I'll start to wear more and more now that we're in the dead of summer. Covers up my neck, keeps my face, just keeps a lot of shade over your head, neck, and shoulders. And along with having the sun shirts and stuff on, it's just a way to protect yourself from the sun. And you see all the crazy stories of guys that get the skin cancer from being in the sun and your skin being exposed. So just cover yourself up, take care of your fish. It's going to be hot, and this is the time of the year when it can be brutal as far as the heat and everything goes. So we're still going to be out there. You still want to be fishing. So if you're fishing tournaments, it's usually 8, 9, 10 hour day. So just take care of yourself while you're out there and take care of your fish. Now, let's get to today's video. Let's go give you a scenario. This is the best way I can think of to get into this. You're fishing, be a lake, river, it can even be a pond, wherever. You're catching them pretty decent. Let's just say you find a little area, you caught a couple on top water. And then as it got warmer, you're like, man, I know I didn't catch all these fish. And the top water bite kind of went away. Maybe you threw a crankbait and caught one. And your gut tells you there's still fish there. You feel like you haven't caught everything that's there. What's one of the first things we usually do? And this was one of the first things I always did until I heard someone talk about this a long time ago. And we'd always change colors. Like say the top water bite's, done, and you've been catching them on a worm or crawl or creature bait or jig, whatever it may be. One of the first things we'd always do is we change color. Well, years and years ago, he's been around for a long time, so I can't take all the credit, for this. But there's a fisherman, Bill Lowen. He's probably one of the best swim jig and jig fishermen there is, Denny Brower used to be his roommate. If anybody's in the bass fishing seriously knows who Denny Brower is. He's still with us. He just doesn't fish competitively anymore. And Bill Lowen used to talk about the importance of not leaving an area without trying different weights and changing the rate of fall of your soft plastic or your jig. And I had never thought about it very much at all until I saw him do his own, a real quick something he put in a little seminar he was doing, talking about how important it was. And then I began to tinker and sometimes I still, especially if I'm in a tournament, my thoughts go, in a tournament, your thought process sometimes things go through my head really, really quick. And if I don't reach it and grab the thought and grasp it and do something with it, it'll go away. That's why whenever my gut tells me to do something when I'm fishing, I instinctively try to do it as soon as I think it. Because if I don't, that thought will come and go and I won't do nothing with it. And in fishing, I think that's one of the biggest mistakes we can make, at least for me, is when your gut tells you to do something, you have a thought pop in your head, you don't know why it came up, you don't know what made you think it, but you should act on it as soon as you have it. There's a reason it popped into your head. There's a reason why it came into your mind and you thought of it. So rate of fall is usually now one of the first things I think of. If I've been catching them in an area and I stop catching them, the first thing I think of is I look at what weight I'm throwing. I used to, for years and years, they say the lightest weight you can get away with throwing is going to be a more natural presentation with a worm and a, brush hog or a crawl or creature bait or whatever it may be, or a jig. I try to use the lightest weight possible. That was for years, the 1/8 ounce. Like, I can't tell you how long I fished a slider head, 1/8 ounce slider head with a trick worm on it, to the point 1/8 ounce was the only weight I had. I didn't even buy the other ones. I didn't even buy 3/16 or any other size. But over time, I started to see situations where changing the weight size had far more effect on what I was catching on my soft plastic than changing the color of the worm. I think a lot of times we get so caught up with color that maybe we lean on it a little bit too hard, too heavy, when the rate of how our bait's falling through the water is a little bit more important. I'm gonna tell you a story real quick. There was a lake back in Virginia, the club I used to fish with. We fished Lake Smith, it was called. It wasn't a very big lake, but that lake was weird because of the watercolor in it. That lake was so full of sediment. It was almost like an algae looking. The water in that lake was crazy, had this weird color to it. That's the only way I know to describe it. But I found out about the second or third time we fished that lake, and this is when I was first getting into fishing tournaments, I had much better luck when I fished with a heavier weight in that lake. And here's the crazy thing, is that lake is so shallow. Some of the only really deep water to me was up close to the boat ramp. After that, the whole lake was probably, I don't know, and I'm just basing off my memory in the areas I fished, 3-4 foot deep. I don't even remember I've ever seen 5 or 6 foot water, like I said, except up close to the boat ramp. But those fish, you caught them super shallow. And anywhere there was a bush or a piece of cover or a lay down, the quicker that bait got to the bottom, the quicker you were going to get bit. I always had better luck in that place using a heavy weight. And when I say heavy, I ain't talking about no 1 ounce, 3/4 weight like these guys flip mats and stuff with. I ain't talking that. I'd probably go from, say, a 1/8 ounce or 3/16 ounce to maybe a 1/4 ounce or 3/8 ounce. Something to get the bait down to the bottom quicker. Because those fish seem to bite, in my memory, better on the bottom. I didn't always get a lot of bites when my bait was on the fall. But when it got to the bottom, I would get bit. So naturally, if I want more bites during the day, I want a bait that's going to get to the bottom quicker. So I would fish where I would usually fish an 1/8 ounce or 3/16 ounce. I'd fish a 1/4 ounce or 3/8 ounce. That's what I would fish. Now watercolor, wind, current, all those things have an effect too. If you're fishing heavy current, 1/8 ounce ain't going to work. You're going to have to go with 3/16. Even that can be kind of light. 3/8, 1/4. And maybe in real heavy current, you might have to go to 1/2 ounce, you know. But if you're catching them in an area and the bite just kind of goes away, before you just leave that area, before you change your weight and see if that makes a difference. Change the size of your sinker. Now, let's talk about sinkers for a minute. I use pretty much Woo Tungsten is what I use. Let me clarify something. I'm on their staff team, but I hate when people call stuff pro staff because I ain't no pro. I just got on board with them, and yes, I just get the discount. I don't, they ain't sending no money my way or nothing like that. But anytime I can save money fishing, I try and save it. So that was a way to save some money with tungsten, because tungsten ain't cheap. And a lot of times, actually, in the rivers, you can get away with using lead, because most rivers, you ain't gonna find no hard bottom. There's a lot of muck. There's a lot of, the bottom's pretty soft, muddy, a lot of trash and stuff on the bottom. It's different in a lake or reservoir, because like at Kerr, Gaston, you can use that tungsten. You can find hard bottom. You can find rock in places you didn't know it was. And you can feel the difference in the bottom just by using the tungsten sinker. So I use tungsten all the time, but I still got some lead. I still got a little bit of lead sinkers. But if you use lead sinkers in the river, and I know a lot of guys do, it's cheaper. That's what you like to use. More power to you, use it. I just use tungsten. One thing I like about tungsten is it's smaller. And also tungsten, it's just a lot of the tungsten, like Woo Tungsten, they stamp the sinkers with the weight size on them. So it's easier for me to know if I'm throwing an 1/8, or if I'm throwing a 3/8, or if I'm throwing a 1/4, or whatever size it may be. So I use tungsten. But if you use lead, plus in the rivers, you got all these trash fish, blackfish, grinnell, whatever you call them, this other stuff. And after a while, you get broken off a couple of times. Those fish, you lose a tungsten sinker. Like I said, they ain't cheap. So if you want to use lead, whatever you're most comfortable with. Wind, current, water temperature even plays a big part of this thought process. Sometimes the fish are setting in the thickest part of the wood, the tree, the bush, the laydown, whatever it is, and a light sinker is not going to get down into there where they are. If you get a couple of bites and you notice, these fish are real thick into the heart, the thickest part of that cover. A heavy weight is going to get down through there better than that. So if you're flipping, I've seen this at Bugs Island, if you're fishing when the water's up in the bushes. If you're fishing a 3/16 ounce sinker, you ain't got no wind, but the water's up into the bushes. If you ain't getting bit on the outside of the bush with that 3/16 sinker, you might need to go up to a 1/4, 3/8, maybe even a little bigger, and start flipping to the heart of that bush. And the easiest way to get down to the middle heart of that bush is with a heavier weight. You're going to see your bites go up. Plus, it's time to go to a heavier weight when you're getting the bites on the bottom. If they're not biting your bait on the fall, like they sometimes, a lot of times will do with a lighter weight, you'll feel the bite on the fall. But a lot of times, when they're not eating that bait till it gets on the bottom, the way to look at it is the more you keep your bait on the bottom, the more flips, casts, pitches you can make and get that bait to the bottom, or you're getting the bites anyway, the more fish you're going to catch. Over the course of an 8 or 10 hour day, that could be a big, significantly more bites over the course of a day. If you're flipping and you're trying to get the bait to the bottom where the bites are happening. So rate of fall can be very important over color or anything else. So if you've been catching them, you got an area, you got a stretch of bank where you've been catching them, and for some reason, whatever it is, the bite seems to slow or stop, before you change colors, before you change baits that you've been catching them on, before you just leave the area outright, saying, okay, I caught them all, this area's, try changing your weight. Try either going heavier or lighter and fishing through it one more time, or fishing through the best parts of that area one more time. See if it gets you another few bites before you just give up on it. I think you'd be surprised how rate of fall can really be something that can get you more bites. Especially, right now, as hot as it is, I feel like in the summer, a lot more of your bites come on the bottom. I think the fish are relating more to the bottom. They're feeding on the bottom more. Maybe not necessarily if there's a shad bite or they're feeding on bait fish or shad. Maybe that ain't the case. But if you're catching them on soft plastic, a lot of times in the summer, it seems like more of your bites come when you get to the bottom. If you're fishing a current situation, a lot of times it will be when your bait gets to the bottom. So keep that in mind. Not always, but it's worth at least trying, switching, looking into it. But that's important, whether they're biting on the fall or when it gets to the bottom. Especially if they're in the thickest part of the cover. I had to look at my note because I don't want to, whenever I do these, like I told you before, I don't like leaving anything out. So, but rate of fall is very important. So that's something to keep in mind. 1/8 ounce, 3/16, 1/4, 3/8, 1/2 ounce. Just work your way through the different weight sizes, especially if you got a hunch that you didn't catch them all. There's still fish there. Rate of fall can be something that can put a few more in the boat for you. So I hope this helps. It's something to keep in mind all the time, but now as we're into the summer and the heat of the summer, if you're fishing in the river and you got current, shade lines, if you're fishing just real thick, hard cover, it's something to, and even in grass. Sometimes around here we don't have a lot of mats, that kind of thing. But we got paths and we got some grass in the rivers and lakes we fish. So sometimes it will help to use a heavier weight to get down through the grass and get in there where the fish are, because they do like that grass when it's hot. That grass, especially if it's not dead, if it's good green vegetation, it adds oxygen to the water too, and it'll pull the fish to that too. So don't skip on rate of fall. It's important. And it's something to keep in mind. Don't just change colors and say, oh, they're not here, they stopped biting, I caught them all. Before you leave it, change your weights up. It doesn't matter if you're fishing on a slider head or a shaky head. Doesn't matter if it's a Texas rig, a free rig, even a drop shot. A lot of times in the river, I'll use a 1/4 ounce weight on my drop shot. And I don't fish a drop shot a lot. I ain't real big on spinning rods. Just me. I know a lot of guys are. I do, obviously, with the slider head, I'm using a spinning rod. And that's always been probably what I've used a spinning rod the most on. But even now on my slider head, most of the time now I'm starting with 3/16. But on my drop shot, a lot of times I'll use a 1/4 ounce just because I want to get it to the bottom. I want my weight on the bottom, so my bait's suspended off the bottom. So, and it's a lot easier for me to pitch and cast around a drop shot with a spinning rod. So, hope this helps. Please like the video, leave me a comment, tell me what you think about it, your take on it, and please subscribe. If you're watching the videos on a regular basis, I would ask that you subscribe to the channel. Stay cool, drink a lot of water, drink a lot of Gatorade, keep electrolytes in you, cover up, and take care of your fish. Ice, G-Juice, whatever additive you like to use. It's hot, and stay safe. And I will see you guys on the next video. And thanks a lot for watching.